again to our show that is called Real Shame, where we watch movies that we probably should have seen. We haven't really told anyone we haven't seen, but now we're telling you and watching them for your viewing pleasure, hopefully. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
And this week we have one movie that I haven't seen, and that's today's movie. But that's some interesting transitions there. Before we always like to jump into our feature review, we always like to talk about what we've been spending our time doing, what we've been watching. So, Andy, what have you been watching?
Alrighty, so by the time this airs, it will be, I think, sometime in August, but right now we're in July filming this, and we're not too far away from July the 4th, so I decided to watch something sort of patriotic, I guess. And no, I wasn't going to rewatch Independence Day or its sequel, but I watched on HBO Max the miniseries that came out, now it's been about 14 years ago, of John Adams, with Paul Giamatti as John Adams and Laura Linney as Abigail Adams, his wife. And it's got some other people that you've seen and heard of, but I'll just mention those two. I thought it was pretty good overall. It's like 7 episodes. I think that they definitely take some liberties. I'm not a history guru or anything like that, but I was kind of reading about how accurate it was compared to what actually happened. They shift some things around and stuff, but I think for the most part, watching it, you get a good history lesson, quite honestly. And it's fairly entertaining. There's a ton of Dutch angles, which I was like, stop that. I didn't really understand.
Was it directed by Kenneth Branagh?
No, I don't know. I don't know who all directed the different episodes, but there's a lot. I was like, but if you can kind of get past that, and the fact that I think Paul Giamatti does a good job, and I want to say he was nominated for an Emmy, or maybe he won an Emmy or something. I don't know. I guess I should have probably fact-checked that, but he was at least nominated. Yeah. I don't know if he won. But after a while, I just felt like I was watching an angry Paul Giamatti, because apparently, if the miniseries is to be believed, John Adams was kind of an angry little guy. But I thought overall, it was interesting. It was a fun little history lesson for the 4th of July. I didn't watch it all in one day or anything, but I watched it over the course of a week.
I've never seen it, but I've heard really good things about it. It's something I've wanted to check out. I just haven't had the opportunity yet.
Yeah, it's good. Laura Linney's always solid. She's good in it. And then I watched, in preparation for the new Space Jam, I rewatched the old Space Jam.
I don't know if I've seen the old Space Jam in its entirety.
Yeah,
I've seen clips.
I was an adult when Space Jam came out. That's how old I am. So I actually saw it in the theater as a young adult. And we've talked a few times about experiences that we had in the theater back when film it wasn't digital projection, and the last reel of the film broke. So in the movie, and this isn't really spoiling it, even if you haven't seen it all, he plays the basketball game, with the Looney Tunes or whatever. And then at the end of the film, because it was filmed right around, it came out in 1996. And that was right as he was coming off of his baseball career with the Birmingham Barons and getting back into basketball. So in the movie, he's a baseball player. He's retired. He's a baseball player for the Birmingham Barons. And they bring him back via a spaceship back to the baseball diamond. And Wayne Knight is in the movie, and he gets out, and he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan." And Michael starts to walk down there. I think that's when it broke. I think that's when the reel of the film broke. And me and my buddy that were there, we were just like, "Oh, well, we pretty much know how it is." So we left. So I actually didn't see the final few minutes of it until I saw it on home video or whatever a few years later. But I've seen it, I think, once on home video or home media, and then I haven't seen it since. So I rewatched it in preparation for the new Space Jam that has LeBron. I don't think, if I was like a young kid when I saw Space Jam, I probably would really love it as it stands. I like it. I think it's a fun movie. Yeah. It's not the classic that I think some people think that it is, but I think those people were probably younger than me and probably grew up watching it over and over. Yeah. I love basketball, and I loved Michael Jordan at the time. And I mean, not that I dislike Michael Jordan now, but he doesn't play anymore. But the movie's just, it's okay. It's fun. It's fun enough to me. But that's what I've been watching. What about you?
So we spent our 4th of Julys a little bit differently. Yeah. Because while you're getting deep into America's history and all that kind of stuff, we were watching cars and things blow up.
That's American history too. It's American. It's American. Cars and blowing up stuff. That's American.
We watched pretty much all the Fast and Furious movies We skipped over Too Fast, Too Furious because I
don't blame you.
I don't want to do it. And I know this is probably sacrilege, but we skipped over Tokyo Drift. I did click through and show the important scene from Tokyo Drift.
Uh-huh.
But, I didn't need more Luke. And I did it. So the reason why is we've seen these movies before, but Kirby hasn't seen these movies. So I was showing her those movies. So I showed her the important part, which was, hey, there's this kid named Lewis Black who goes to Japan. He meets Han, which is the most important part.
Right.
And then, spoiler alert, Han dies in the middle of the movie, which they retcon. But, at the end of Fast and Furious 6, they retcon that scene. So you get to see that scene again, basically. But did that, and we watched 1, 4, 5, 6, part of 3, 7, 8. So we watched them in, chronological order, I guess.
Right.
And, everyone, I feel like there's nothing new to be said about this series. Justin Lin is hands down the MVP of this series. He's a great director. He put him and the writer Chris Morgan really reinvented the whole series with 4, 5, and 6. And I think 4 and 5 are the best movies of the entire series. They just do it right and everything. And I think 6 is kind of 6 has a hard part because it's like in 5 they basically become wealthy, richer than their dreams. And it's like, okay, what do these guys need to do now for 6, right?
Yeah.
So they have to invent this shadowy corporation, and then they kind of, bring in Deckard Shaw, and they bring in his brother and stuff like that. So they try to kind of invent a reason for him to continue on for the rest of the movies. But 4 and 5 are really, really, really good of those movies. And, I know Vin Diesel hates this, but The Rock just outshines him in these movies. He's just more interesting to look at, more charismatic than Vin Diesel is. Vin Diesel's kind of one note, which is really funny because he's played like Groot, where Groot says 3 words. And, he played the Iron Giant, where all the Iron Giant does is grumble and stuff. So, but like I said, I don't think that's new to anyone, but that's kind of what we were watching, where I said, I will say one last thing. Fast and Furious, the fourth movie was my favorite after our last watch of it when we did the marathon. But I think now Fast 5 is my favorite watching this. So it's kind of changes between those two. Because Fast and Furious plays like a legit movie, like a Running Scared, to use another Paul Walker movie. It plays like a straightforward movie. And the Fast 5 is a little elevated, but that's where I sit on this.
I don't know what my favorite Fast and Furious movie is. I never really thought about it much. It's not 3. I know a lot of people love Tokyo Drift, but I'd have to think.
And Justin Lin's just a great director. His movies look so much more interesting because they had John Singleton did the Too Fast, Too Furious, which is not great. Rob Cohen, I think, directed the first Fast and Furious movie, which is not great. And then we had the guy who did Saw direct the 7th movie. He also directed he directed Aquaman. And I don't think that looks very good. I don't think it's very inventive. And I think it's F. Gary Gray directed the 8th movie, and that movie's just terrible. I mean, I don't think that movie's very good, and it's not very inventive and stuff like that. But I said watching all this, I want to watch Fast 9. I know Fast 9's been out for a bit, but I'm waiting to kind of go see that because I'm really excited about that. All right, anything else? I know that's a whole lot on Fast and Furious, but hey, I don't think we've talked about it before on this podcast.
I don't think so. No.
That's what happens. All right, let's get into our featured review, and that's going to be
Midnight Run from 1988. Bounty hunter Jack Walsh wants nothing more than to do one last job, get paid thousands of dollars, and open up a little coffee shop. He is tasked with picking up mild-mannered accountant Jonathan Mardukas. But Jack first has to contend with the FBI, a Chicago gangster with whom he has a past, and a rival bounty hunter. Things get pretty complicated for something that should have been just a simple midnight run. Ding, 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 ding.
Why would you eat that?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it tastes good.
But it's not good for you.
I'm aware of that.
Well, why would you do something that you know that's not good for you?
Because I don't think about it.
Well, that's living in denial.
Living in denial?
Yeah.
I'm aware of that.
So you're aware of all your behavior, yet you continue to do things that aren't good for you. That sounds sort of foolish, don't you think so, Jack?
No, stealing $15 million from Jimmy Serrano sounds foolish.
I didn't think I'd get caught.
Now that's living in denial.
I'm aware of that.
Oh, so you're aware of your behavior, and yet you continue to do things that aren't good for you. Sounds kind of foolish to me, don't you think, John?
It was foolish. But taking $15 million of mob money and giving it to charity was good for a lot of people.
Okay. Midnight Run was directed by a guy named Martin Brest. Martin Brest did another kind of action comedy earlier in the 1980s that made, well, he was already a star thanks to Saturday Night Live and 48 Hours, which had come out a couple of years before, but Martin Brest made Eddie Murphy even more of a star in Beverly Hills Cop, which is another, to me, a really, really great action comedy of the 1980s. He did your favorite movie, Sin of a Woman. Hoo-ah! And then Martin Brest has not done a film since he wrote and directed the movie Gigli.
He's in director jail.
I think we all know the story behind Gigli. It's an infamous bomb starring Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. But yeah, he hasn't done anything since then. He is still alive, though. I was reading that, again, by the time this airs, it will have already happened, but I was reading that he's about to do some kind of virtual Q&A because they're going to do a double bill of Beverly Hills Cop and Midnight Run, and he's going to do like a virtual Q&A.
That'd be a good
after
one.
that. It's coming up in a few days, but that means nothing to you because it will already be in the past. So unless you've got a time machine, then you missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, I might. Well, I'll get those details from you. Yeah.
It's written by a guy named George Gallo. It stars Robert De Niro as bounty hunter Jack Walsh, Charles Grodin as Jonathan Mardukas, also known as the Duke. Yaphet Kotto, by the way, Charles Grodin, R.I.P., just passed away a few months ago. Yaphet Kotto is another guy just passed away a few months ago. He plays FBI agent Alonzo Mosley. John Ashton plays the rival bounty hunter Marvin Dorfler. It's got Dennis Farina, who plays the gangster Jimmy Serrano. It's funny because Dennis Farina was a Chicago police officer for many, many years before he was an actor. And in this movie, he gets to play a Chicago gangster. Joe Pantoliano.
With really strange hair.
Is Eddie Moscone.
Isn't he...
The bail bondsman.
Is Joey Pants still with us?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, and Philip Baker Hall, who is also still with us. He's like 89 years old or something now. Has a small role as Sidney, who's basically Jimmy Serrano's advisor. And Martin Brest, the director himself, has a cameo as the airline ticket guy. He's selling a ticket to John Ashton's character, Marvin, towards the end of the film. Marvin's smoking a cigarette. And Martin Brest asks him, smoking or non-smoking? This is back when you could smoke on airplanes.
And he's like, what do you think?
He's like, yeah, take a wild guess.
Take a wild guess.
But this is a movie that I have seen. So I've seen it before once in its entirety. Within the last year or two, it was on TV one day, and I caught a big chunk of it. And I remember thinking then, you know what, I need to sit down and watch this from the beginning again because just I got sucked into it as I was watching it on TV. But it's a movie that you've never seen, and I think you said a podcast or something that you listened to mentioned it recently. Is that right?
Yeah, like you said, Charles Grodin passed away, and the Slash Filmcast, now called the Film Podcast, I think is what it's called now. They just changed their name like in the last 2 days.
Okay.
We're talking about Charles Grodin movies, or that he passed away, and they actually did a review of Midnight Run on their show. I skipped ahead because I didn't want to be spoiled, because they said some nice things about it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to make a mental note to check that out, and here we are checking it out.
Here we are. Well, what did you think?
So I didn't know much about this movie, but I really like this movie a whole lot. It's the interplay between Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin's really good. I think Charles Grodin's played almost like a really sweet, kind of sacred kind of guy later on in his career because we have like Beethoven and those movies. But it's interesting seeing him play a character that has a little bit more edge in this movie, I feel like. And there's some really interesting things that happen in this movie that I feel like we don't see in a lot of like procedurals or a lot of this kind of like cop movies, like when Robert De Niro goes and wants to get the slip that they had, like for when they detained Charles Grodin's character, and he flips it around to get a phone number and stuff like that. Like I've never seen that before. Yeah. In another movie, right? And and this makes me think about when I was being critical on The Godfather is, here's a movie, obviously not The Godfather, not of the same quality as Godfather, but here's a movie that is, many decades old, and still it's doing things that are surprising to me, right? So there's still movies out there that'll do that. to circle back on that conversation. And so, and the scenes seem to linger on a little bit more, and I feel like I get a lot of, like, it almost feels like it's a how-to on this kind of stuff, because I feel like all the stuff that Robert De Niro does feels very real. Like, I just feel like we get scenes and we see him do things as a bounty hunter and get information about Charles Grodin that we haven't seen in other movies and stuff like that. So that's what I found. So amongst the interplay between the two characters, I found that very interesting and very captivating, right?
Yeah.
I think if I had to be really critical about this movie, the pace is kind of slow. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's because it's the late 80s or whatnot. And it's not like annoyingly slow, but if I had to like choose something to kind of dig into a little bit more, I would say that the pace, oh, how to say that word? I can't even speak. The pace is a little bit slow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my initial thoughts on Midnight Run. So you said you've obviously seen this a couple times, maybe not the entire thing, but
2.5 times, let's say now. Yeah.
So what'd you think about it this time? It sounded like you liked it. So
yeah.
So what'd you think about it this time around revisiting Midnight Run?
Yeah, I really dig this film. I like you said, I just think it's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's really cool. Again, Robert De Niro, just like Al Pacino, I feel like now is a caricature kind of guy for the most part, but I don't think he's that in this film. I think he's still kind of fresh. Charles Grodin, he did plenty of movies, but he didn't do that many overall, and he kind of retired there for a while. Like you said, he did Beethoven and some other movies in the 90s. He didn't do a whole lot in the 21st century. He does have some credits under his belt before he passed away, but I haven't seen much of what he did in the 21st century, so it's always nice to see him, and I think they do make a great pair. I think this movie is never... I do agree with you on the... I think the pace may be a little bit slow, just by today's standards, and we talked about that plenty. When you go back and look at some of these older films, because everything now is just so flashy. If this movie were made now, it would have a lot more cutting and probably shorter scenes, and
a little foreshadowing for what we're talking about next week.
Yeah, a lot more flash and whatnot. But I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't think this movie's ever boring because there's just so much going on in this movie, because the FBI is after them, the Chicago guys are after them. Marvin Dorfler's after them, the rival bounty hunter, and then you got the bail bondsman guy who answers the phone. He's also in on it. He's feeding the mob information and everything. It's just a really, really interesting film. Logistically, you might ask, how do they all get to where each other is? But
so
who cares?
Yeah,
it's like, hey, they're in Amarillo, and then suddenly the other guy's there, and it's like, oh man, they got there fast. But again, who cares? It's a really fun movie. Also, I was like, how the hell does Marvin Dorfler know his credit card number, right? But then you think Marvin is an unscrupulous guy, so and somewhere along the way he managed to get.
I think that's great. He just knows.
No,
him so
I
well.
loved it because he just cancels his credit card.
Yeah, he just knows him so well, right?
Right.
He's like I'm always running into Jack Walsh. I might as well have as much information on him either available or memorized,
right?
So I can use that. So I think I think that plays well.
Yeah, but the movie's never boring. I feel like there's enough action, there's enough comedy, and one thing about this movie that I really love is like the drama that's in it, particularly when Jack Walsh goes to visit his estranged wife and daughter. I think that's actually a really sad and touching scene, especially when he goes to leave in his wife's station or his ex-wife's station wagon, and his daughter runs out and she's like, "Take my babysitting money." He's like, I can't take it. They drive away, and the shot just lingers on her, just looking very sad and forlorn in the driveway. Basically, I'm like, I didn't cry or anything, but I'm like, gosh, that's really sad. I love Charles Grodin's character because he is kind of this mild-mannered guy, but he did steal some money. I like that scene when they go to get the 20s out of the bar, and he's just like, you're doing the litmus configuration?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
How tall is he? He was kind of tall, right?
Yeah.
One of the guys he's like 5'6". He's like, all right.
Yeah,
dark hair.
That sounds like our guy. Yeah. His red hair or whatever. Yeah. He's like totally different details. And he's like, that sounds like our guy. And I love the guy sitting at the bar. He's like, you seen any suspicious people around here? And he's like, no. And he's like, you live around here? And he goes, yeah. And he's like, okay. It's just really funny interplay between the two. They get to know each other. It's, it reminds me of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, except for Charles Grodin's character is not annoying like the Gil character, like the John Candy character in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but he's definitely annoying to Jack's character, right? I mean, he's like, come on, let me go. But no, I really, really think this movie is really great, really a lot of fun. I don't think it's underseen necessarily. I feel like it has enough of an audience now. But I would say to you, the viewer, if you've never seen Midnight Run, it is on Netflix at least right now.
It is, yep.
So if you have Netflix, you can check it out for no extra cost. But yeah, it's definitely worth seeing. I think this is a really, really buddy kind of action comedy film that is definitely worth your time. I would say.
I'm kind of upset that I haven't seen it sooner, but I'm really glad we took a chance and took the time to check it out and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought you would like it. I did want to do it on the show, and when you mentioned that they had been talking about it on that podcast, I thought, well, let's get it out of the way. So yeah, I'm glad we did. I enjoyed revisiting it. This is a movie that I feel like I can just put on and have fun with really at any time. I have been critical in the past of Danny Elfman's scores. I like some of them. Some of them I feel like are very similar.
Yeah.
But he did the score for this movie. I love the score for this movie.
It doesn't sound like what you think
exactly.
is typical Danny Elfman.
And that's what I like about it. And it's really kind of bouncy and jazzy and snazzy and snappy and all these other
Does this have a
adjectives.
Oingo Boingo song in it, or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah, so what I was reading was I think the song that plays over the end credits, he also recorded it as Oingo Boingo, something like that.
I was like,
yeah.
I might know that.
You are correct, sir. You are correct. But yeah, no, I really like the score, and I think I like it because A, it's good, and it doesn't sound like Batman or
it doesn't sound
scores.
like some Christmas or not Christmas, some circus theme.
Yes. But it's a really bouncy score. This was followed by 3 television movies, which I've never seen. I didn't even know they existed.
I didn't even know. Existed.
3 TV movies, another Midnight Run, Midnight Run Around, and Midnight Run for Your Life. They got their money's worth out of using Midnight Run in all the titles. But Jack Walsh is played by Christopher McDonald in those movies.
Okay.
Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore.
Yep.
He plays Jack Walsh in the TV movies. I don't know. I meant to look to see if they're available on YouTube or something because I'd kind of like to see.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, I wonder if Martin Brest or George Gallo is behind it. If they are, I might be more tempted to watch it. But
yeah, probably not. But I don't know.
Do they get the most out of their names here, or did Fast and Furious get the most out of
Well, I think Fast and Furious wins that hands down. But this movie, no surprise, is 94% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes because it's a damn good movie.
Yep.
87% audience score. It got 2 thumbs up, and Gene Siskel listed it as number 6 on the 10 best movies of 1988. Didn't make Roger's list. Malton gives it 3.5 stars. This is a very, very solid movie.
Yeah. So what do we pair this with?
Yes. So I tossed around a few choices. I almost went with Steve McQueen. I wanted to do another bounty hunter movie. I almost went with Steve McQueen as the hunter, but I've watched that movie recently, and I don't think it's that great. So I decided to do a movie about a bounty hunter that I've actually never seen before. This was the first time I've seen it. It stars a guy that you might have heard of from the Fast and Furious movies, or is at least in
Kismet, guys.
the more recent ones, and the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
But with hair.
With hair, and it's called The Rundown. We'll talk about that next time.
All right, guys. Well, stay tuned next time and see that. If you've seen Midnight Run, let us know what you think. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment down below. If you're listening to us on audio, shoot us an email. That email address is realshame@gmail.com. We also answer viewer questions there, and we need viewer questions. So please shoot us some viewer questions to our email address. Again, realshame@gmail.com. We're on social media. We're on Instagram @realshame, although I didn't post this week like I should have. But anyways, so follow us there if you want to catch the occasional post from us. And like, subscribe, share the show, leave reviews, do all that kind of social media stuff because that really does help spread the word, and we really do appreciate that. And stay tuned in 2 days as we go down to South America and see what the rundown is. And we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.